as we know it is crumbling. And we could use some superheroes. Let's face it. Let's be honest with ourselves. I happen to know a few, and our guest today is one of those superheroes. Jason Crowe is the creator and idea man behind the Qortal project. If you want to know what that is, watch this video, but also go to Qortal.com and you can learn all about the new internet for the new world. You can go to the website for Jason's company, which is Crowetic.com. That's where you can find the hardware that you need or that you would want. You can run this internet off of any device, but you can go to Crowetic.com, and that's where you'll find the hardware that you can use to run the new internet, which is Qortal. Now, I call him a superhero because, number one, it is a dark time, and it's hard to find people who have the proper ethics that are actually willing, able, and driven enough to try to build new alternatives to the systems that we currently experience now. The ones that have been around since before we can remember, and people just accept because it's the status quo. Very few people are trying to create alternatives to those systems, but Jason is one of them. And he has a particular skill for getting people on board with his project. And what they're building is going to blow your mind. So here we go. Here's my friend, Jason Crowe. I want you to explain how it is that you started to see a need for this and what drives you to keep going toward it. Because, I mean, speaking to how fast the Qortal project is moving, you and I spoke, I want to say it was April or May. No, it might have been a little bit. Yeah, March, April, May, somewhere in there. And you were saying, well, I want to do this and this and this. And you've already done all of the shit that you told me that you wanted to do. And
Right.
so that's how fast it's moving. That's how fast it's developing. And that's how quickly this is going to be able to benefit people beyond any structure that or infrastructure that they've had access to before. So obviously you are an ambitious, driven, visionary person. So just introduce yourself for the viewers and explain a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got to this place in your life now.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Jason Crowe. Nice to meet you. Last name spelled Crowe. And that's where my username comes from, Crowetic, Crowetic. And that is also my company name, Crowetic.com. And we sell, which I might, if I can go grab one, I'll go grab one so I can show you.
Yes.
Guys. Yeah, hold on. So I don't have the keyboard version on me right now, but so this device here is called the Cortector, and I've got one in blue and one in black. So these are actually built to run the Qortal project. And so they're completely open source. So you guys can either build it yourself or you can order it from us. And that's how I believe the future should be built, right? So a little bit about me. I have basically been obsessed with technology since I was like yay high. So I built my first computer when I was just about 13 years old. Ripped apart an existing computer, replaced the motherboard, put another processor on it, and did a bunch of stuff, right? So like that stuff just kind of came naturally to me. I was always good with like technology stuff, right? So like when I was 16, I got my first tech job. Since then, I basically have been working in tech, like doing, I worked for the technology services department for Washoe County, which is the county I live in, right? So like I've done all that kind of stuff. I worked for the Geek Squad even, like I've worked for like, all kinds of different technology fixing companies, right? So then I started my own company called Crowetic Computers, which has since I've closed that company and opened Crowetic Hardware Development, which now we're doing the development of these things. And we've got our new generation of these, the Cortector Gen 3, coming out really soon. It's actually being prototyped in the other room right now with a developer who's working on it remotely. And but yeah, so that we now do that. But I basically have just been a tech guy my whole life. I used to go to people's houses and fix their stuff. So I know a lot about the mentality of how people see stuff on tech, right? And so that's how like my ability to make this stuff like really straightforward and easy to use, and why I was the one to design most of the like the user end functionality and how that's all going to work, is because I have dealt with thousands and thousands and thousands of tech support calls, like
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands and thousands of going to someone's house and like helping them and or building computers for people or whatever, right? So then in 2013, when I was working for a software developer called Metamation here locally, I got introduced to Bitcoin. And these like one of the developers there showed me Bitcoin, and I'm like, holy crap, how did I not know about this already? Like, because Bitcoin had been in existence since about 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like, for some reason I missed it, right? Like, because I'm not like, one thing I don't do is watch news or like go seek out news or information like that. Like, I'll go seek out very specific things on how I want to like go learn how to build something or do something, but I won't like go just look about what other people are talking about. I don't do that really. So like, for me to find out something, somebody has to tell me, essentially. So like, when he told me, I was like, holy crap, I wish I would have figured this out in 2009. But I jumped in immediately, of course, and started learning how to mine Bitcoin, because I was like, wait a minute, I can make money with my computers over here sitting here. And the whole idea behind Bitcoin at first was that it was supposed to be able to be mined on every normal anybody's computer, right? But I quickly learned that that's not possible. Like they had already progressed to the point where they had devices like 500 times bigger than this that took a shitload more power. Now this thing only takes as much power as your phone charger. So like, this thing can run Qortal and do all the stuff that Qortal can do on no power. Basically, this is like 5 volts, right? You can run it off of like one of these things, a battery charger, right? This thing can power this thing. So it's like, it's crazy. So like the mining, I got really interested in mining. I got really big into mining. Then I wanted to like, I got into the crypto space too, and I started to look into other projects because mining Bitcoin was just too hard. And so I like looked into other ones and found altcoins. And they were just now starting to call them altcoins in 2013. There were only a few of them, right? Like, it was only like a handful of extra coins that existed. Now it's like, what, thousands and thousands, and
Thousands.
most of them are not even coins with their own chain. It's a joke. Like, what exists now is a complete bastardization of what existed in 2013. And so it's really bad these days. And that's why I'm like, there are only maybe 6 or 7, 8-ish platforms that are built from scratch. There are only 8, and Qortal is one of those, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to realize, like, most of these other coins, they didn't really do any work. What they did is take an existing coin, copy that coin's code, change a few parameters, and launch a new one, right? And so even if they do have their own chain, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? So there's a lot of complexities to the crypto space that I like to try to get people to at least start to understand, because it's important. Like, if you're going to buy into something, or if you're going to like support a project, you should really know like what that project did. Like, why do you think this coin is so cool, right? Like, so I got really into the space, and I ended up leading a project called Burst in 2014-ish for like a couple years. And I built their first development team, because their developer, they had one developer, right? And he disappeared after 6 months, right? And that's a big problem in the crypto space too, because
Yes.
they like anonymous developers, and then maybe they realize something, or they start getting scared that they're going to get targeted or something, right? And they just disappear, right? And what I think he realized is that what I realized 2 years later is that his algorithm that he built was flawed. And so that flawed algorithm, if some other smart people came along, they could make it run faster on an ASIC, which is what a Bitcoin miner is, or they could make it run faster. Like, and I actually demonstrated this to the community, right? I'm like, you guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the algorithm's flawed. And they're like, yeah, right. I'm like, okay, fine. So I had a developer of mine build a demo of how flawed it was. It used hard drive space, and I had him build a demo of, okay, so this is an 8 terabyte hard drive. He built a demo that plotted 16 terabytes of data on that 8 terabyte hard drive. Now, how is that possible, right? Because the algorithm's flawed. You should not be able to do that,
Yeah.
right? So
That
I
was
demoed
your
to the community.
own, that was your algorithm.
Well, no, the
No,
developer
okay.
was somebody who developed this, and
Okay.
he left, and that was
Okay.
before I took over the project.
Wow.
So then I took over the project because I thought the project was still really cool, and I wanted the project to keep going. So I started building development team and like started, I built the first burst team and like, helped the project move along, right? Because I thought it was really cool. But then later on realized that the algorithm was flawed. And probably that's why the developer left, but he didn't say anything after he left, right? So we were like, okay, whatever. But then I figured that out and had someone build a demo of it. And guess what they did? I'm like, you guys, we should rebuild the coin. Basically, we should just completely rebuild it, like what I wanted to do for Qortal, right? I wanted to build in the ultimate platform, right? And that's what Qortal is. It's like a dream since 2013 that I've been putting together with a bunch of other really brilliant people and coming up with like, how are we going to build this, like the ultimate blockchain platform, right? And they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to actually rebuild the platform because I mean it takes years to do this. Like it's not like we're gonna rebuild it and we'll have it done in 6 weeks. No, like it's not anything like that because it's like you have to start from scratch because we have to replace the database engine. We have to replace like everything, right? It's literally rebuilding all of it. And so nobody wanted to do it with me. Like, come on, guys, let's do this. And like, no, I'm like, okay, whatever. So I left that project, and that's when I found the Qortal project, which was another dead project. And so I'm basically known for like revitalizing dead projects and then like building new ones, right? So I took over the Qortal project development when it was considered dead. So I had no idea about their existing community or anything really. Like I just came in and said, yo guys, you want some developers to come back and help build this? And they're like, yes. Then we ended up completely rebuilding that and doing what I wanted to do with Burst to Quora, and that's where Qortal came from. And so that's where the name Qortal is like Quora and Portal, right?
Yes.
So we mixed those two names together and came out with Qortal, which is this portal with a backwards P, which is also really cool. And I love the name Qortal. It really resonates with a lot of people and it just works really well for so many things. So, but that was like, so we took over that development in 2016. So that tells you how long like we've actually been doing development on the Qortal code base, which since 2016. So it's been quite a while now. And that's when the code actually started getting written. So 2013, the ideas started getting created. 2016, the code actually started getting written. And so yeah, since then, like I'm good with people. And I'm really good with developers because I understand code to a low enough level to like be able to read it and to be able to understand what's going on and to be able to also understand like whether a concept can be built in a certain way or not. And so I am good with talking with developers or relaying someone's crazy idea into something that the developers can actually build, right? So I just am like the facilitator of the development team, and I just like make sure the developers are all taken care of. If they need anything, whatever, like I'm just like making sure everything's handled, right? So, and that's what I've been doing since then. Essentially, like I ran my company too and was doing computer work for a long time, and then now we're running Crowe hardware development and selling these things. Now, since people can build these themselves, they do not have to buy them from us if they want one. We'll even give you the 3D printer files, right? So this is how we think the whole world should be built, and we're following the principles that we believe in, right? So we believe everything should be open source. If you want to build one of these things, you should not have to buy it from us. You should be able to build it yourself if you want to, right? Or you can buy it from us and support us, which also supports the development of Qortal because we donate 20% of our company's hardware to the development team, right? Because I'm reading the development team, it makes total sense to do that. So I think that the world needs to be built open source. I think that if companies didn't own patents and own the technology itself, that things would be a lot better. You could have a lot more selection, and you would also be able to choose the company based on how well that company treats you, based on how, like, you know what I mean? It would just end up with a much better scenario instead of like right now, there are a few companies that own certain technologies, and those companies are now massive. And everybody works for those companies because they own those technologies and there's nothing anybody can do about it. And now that's a problem, right? Like that's a big problem. And so that's why open source is so important. That's why everything that I'm involved in is going to be open source, right? It's like a requirement for everything that it has to be open source or I won't touch it, right? Because I want to be what I want to see in the world, right? I want these things to become reality. And so I'm trying to facilitate this becoming reality. And yeah, that's basically a rundown of who I am. I talk very quickly. I am a very tech-minded person, but I'm pretty decent with explaining things in multiple different ways so that multiple different people can understand them. And I will take the time to communicate with anybody, like even in like the Qortal tech support channel. If you come in and you're asking questions, if I'm around, I will answer your questions, even if it takes 2 hours to walk you through in multiple different ways so that you start understanding this. And then once it clicks, the people love it, right? And so I am all about that. I am all about like helping people figure this stuff out, making them realize that it's not really that hard, making them realize that what they're using on the internet is really not as good as they think it is. And like, these kinds of things are important. And if nobody takes the time to like do what I'm doing here and talk about it and explain it and handhold anybody who needs help through this stuff, it's never going to get understood by the people who consider themselves not techie, right? And so even if you're not techie or you don't understand this stuff, it's really not that hard. Like, and the base level of what we're trying to do is to bring the power back to the people. We're trying to decentralize all of the things that are owned by all these companies that control everything and like lobbying everything, and like just that's all a problem, right? And everybody realizes that these things are a problem, but where's the solution, right? We are providing that solution, and we are basically the only ones. Like, yes, there are a few other projects like Pirate Chain and so forth that we support and whatever, but like there's not many that are doing things the right way. There's not many that are focused on like important things and providing solutions there. And there's definitely nothing like Qortal that exists that will allow you to do all the stuff that it can do now and in the near future a lot more. So I mean, I'm just really excited about this, and everybody can pick up on my energy when I talk about it, right? And I talk with my hands and all this stuff, right? But I mean, I think it helps. Like, it helps to get like my enthusiasm across, because people know that I'm not like just bullshitting about this. They know that I've actually dedicated my life to this for the past like 10 plus years that we've been doing this, and I'm very serious about this platform, right? And it's not a joke.
Okay. So that's actually a perfect place to transition here. So
this is the user interface for Qortal. As we've already explained what Qortal is, I wanted to show a little bit about how simple it is to use, because just talking about it is one thing, but seeing it and seeing the attention to detail that we've put into making it as user-friendly as possible, I think is really important, so people don't get overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, this is a new technology, it's a crazy blockchain thing, and I have no idea about any of that. And that's fine to feel that way, but then you can look at it and realize, wait, that looks really easy to use, right? And so that's why I like to always do a demo, especially for people who go, I'm not techie at all. That's fine, right? Like, this was built so that I could set this down in front of my mother or my grandma, who they're exactly that way. They'll be like, I don't know, my printer's not working, come help me fix it, kind of stuff all the time, right? So I had that in mind, because this platform is not just built for techie people. It's not just built for blockchain people. It's not just built for people like that. It's built for everyone, and it's specifically built for the next generation of people, right? And the people here now who can get into it early and start helping to build out more, interactivity in there, more, like businesses going on in there, more economic stuff going on in there, more communications and community stuff going on in there, the better it's going to be for the next generation to take over and make it even better from there. So anyways, this is the main user interface. So right now, the way that it works, there are two pieces to it, right? There's the Qortal core, which just runs in the background all the time. And I think if you can see my entire screen, you can see that up here as this little Q icon. That little Q icon. And now this is a Mac. I'm not really a Mac guy, but we can run on Mac, Linux, Windows, any operating system that you have. So any operating system will work, right? So on a Windows machine, this would be down on the bottom on the taskbar on Windows. Same idea though. So this little icon here shows up, and that's the Qortal core that runs in the background. Now that's going to be running all the time. That's what synchronizes the chain and keeps you connected with the network and so forth. Then the UI here, which is the user interface, UI stands for, so we just are very straightforward with it. This is the Qortal user interface, right? And so I'm going to go from the beginning. So if you're a new user, what you're going to do is once you run the UI, once you have the core running and you run the UI, you're going to click create account. Now you can read this if you like. Or for the people who don't really like to read, you can literally just click next. But what this is here is just explaining basically welcome to Qortal. And it also explains there's an option here to get your seed phrase. Now your seed phrase for people who are not techie, I recommend just skipping that part, right? Because all you really need is what we'll get to in the next couple steps here, which is called your backup file. And that's an encrypted copy of your seed phrase. So you don't have to worry about where you save that file. If you get the seed phrase, that'll actually pop up on your screen and show you a phrase that, and if anybody has that phrase, they can get into your account. So in my opinion, I recommend that people basically just skip this unless you know what you're doing and you want to have the seed phrase too, and you know how to save that securely, like write it down on a piece of paper, don't save it on your computer or save it encrypted somewhere on your own. That's different, right? But I suggest just skipping that and going right next. Now here, this is a display name. So you can say, John's display name. You can call it whatever you want. Like this is my main wallet or whatever, because you can have any number of accounts in Qortal to use for different purposes. And the really cool part about this is once there are more applications and websites and so forth inside of Qortal, you can have like an overall profile that you create on each account. So you can have that one profile that follows you throughout any other application that you use on Qortal. You never have to remember username, password combinations again for different applications. It's going to be really cool, right? So if you want different profiles, you'll create a different account for that. And so you can have as many accounts as you want. The only account type that we like to limit is the minting account. So a minting account is, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but that's how you can earn from just running your node on Qortal. So we're going to type in that, and you're going to type in a passphrase. Now you can use a really complex one if you like, but because the way that Qortal works, this information never goes anywhere. This is only for you. It's only encrypting a file that you're going to save, right? So you don't have to worry about it being super complex like you do on centralized services where they are on a server and they're accessible on the internet. So a hacker could potentially get into your account really easily by, guessing your simple passphrase. Now, that's not possible with Qortal because there's nothing for that hacker to try to get into. There's no database that they can try to get into, right? So for this, you can literally do as simple a passphrase as you like. And I suggest kind of doing a more simple one, especially when you're first starting, so that you don't forget it, right? Now, you're going to make sure you remember this passphrase, because if you only have your backup file and you don't remember this passphrase, it's going to be bad because no one else can help you, right? So you want to make sure you make a simple passphrase. So you click that. If you have that box checked by default, it'll save it automatically for you in the Qortal UI. So you'll have a copy of it saved there too. Now this is going to look different depending on which operating system you're on, but it's popping up the download of the backup file for you automatically, right? So all you have to do is basically click save. On Windows, it'll pop up another little window and it'll have a save button on it too. It's a similar thing on basically all the operating systems. Just click save. Once you've got that saved, it saves by default in your downloads folder. So most people usually know where the downloads folder is, but as long as you save that, you're okay, right? So if you have a copy of it, if you come into the Qortal community, you're like, I lost access to my account, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you have your old computer? Yes, it's in your downloads folder. We'll help you get to it, right?
Perfect.
And another good idea is to save that file on a flash drive or an external hard drive. As many copies of that file as you can make, the better, because you are the only one who can access this account, right? You got to keep that in mind. We're bringing all of the power back into the hands of the people. Now that comes along with a little bit extra responsibility too, right? Because if you are the only one who has access to this account, you can't go, help desk, please let me back into my account. That's not a thing.
And I say, Stan Lee got it backwards. He said, with great power comes great responsibility, but really with great responsibility comes great power. So it's not something that people should be afraid of.
Right, exactly. No, this is great, right? We're actually taking away that power from all of these big companies who are constantly screwing us over, constantly causing a bunch of chaos in our lives. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I've dealt with the ringer from basically every big centralized company in so many different ways, stealing from me, doing all kinds of nonsense, right? And that's one of the main things that we need to get rid of this, right? And that's what Qortal can really do, is completely remove that from the equation. Now, once you've done that, if that save window didn't come up for whatever reason, you can click this again and it will show it again for you, so you can save it. And you can do that again if you want to save it on another location. You can just save it as many times as you want, then click continue, and you're good. Now you're into your account on Qortal. So creating the account's very straightforward. there's like not a lot to it, right? You can basically just go next, 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 save, finish, right? And you're done. And so now it looks a little complex when you first get in because that comes right into the wallets plugin. What you can see here is we have multiple different coins, right? So if you are familiar with cryptocurrencies, now you have a local wallet for each of these cryptocurrencies that you can now use, right? Which is really cool because you're not using an exchange, which means you're not giving up control again. So anytime you're using a centralized service, you are letting them control everything. If you don't want them to control everything, this is the way you do that, right? So now you have, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Digibyte, Ravencoin, and the newest one, which you can't quite see because my video thing here is hiding it, is Pirate Chain, which was a big thing for us. We just did this support last weekend. And if you're familiar with what a privacy coin is, Pirate Chain is one of the best, if not the best, privacy coins. And so having that support, we're actually the first ones in the world to be able to do this, to be able to trade with a privacy only coin directly from one blockchain to another. So that's like kind of another world first we've done that hopefully we start getting credit for these things at some point. Yeah, but so we're really happy about the Pirate Chain edition. The UI, if you don't like the dark mode, you can switch it up here and it gets light. So you can, for your eyes, whichever way is better for you. I personally like the look of the dark mode better, but and so we have added a new plugin here. So for the people who are wondering what minting is, you can literally come into this here and it'll explain it to you. And it'll show you how once you get your sponsorship key from another minter of level 5 or higher, you can put it in right here. You click submit and it does all the rest of the work for you. Like if you remember how this used to be, this didn't exist at all. People had to deal with down here in node management and adding the minting key here. And it was a lot harder, right? So
that's how I started minting. Yeah. Yes.
Right. And so now we've made this a lot easier. And I'm going to do a lot more of this kind of stuff with showing in the UI, like having this wording here and like so people can come in and they can read it. And when we get a little further, we'll put links here to the wiki that's actually hosted on top of Qortal 2. And so it's all still completely decentralized. It's going to be awesome. So we'll be making this like super simple, super straightforward. If you have any questions, you should be able to find the answer by going to where you're trying to go to in the UI, right? So that's this plugin I've actually had designed since before Genesis. So it was really cool to get this actually done. And what else happens once you've done this, right? And you get your sponsorship key. So minting, I'll go over it just a little bit, right? So minting is just the way that the blockchain moves. And you get rewarded for doing that in Qort. So Qort is the main coin of the platform. So you can basically run a node on the network and get paid for it, right? And so that helps the network grow. And each new node that comes, there's another place for each person to connect to, and it just helps the network grow, right? So what you do is you can usually come into QChat here and say, hello, I'm new. So this is a chat platform that's built into Qortal. This is all completely decentralized. There's no company involved in any of this. So you're not giving any data to anyone. You have full control over which data comes to your node and which data you put out, right? So that's really cool too. There's no way that anybody can track anything that you're viewing. They can't like what they do with the advertisements and stuff like that, where if you mention something out loud, they can hear it and then they'll say, then they'll put an advertisement on your screen. None of that kind of stuff is possible on Qortal. So if you're coming in as a new user and you want to become a minter, you can come in here and say, hi, I'm new, looking to become a minter. And people will, I'm not going to send that message because then people will actually reply to me and suggest what I can do, but I obviously don't need to become a mentor. So, but you can come in here and you literally just use this like any other messaging service. The Qortal general chat is the only group that you'll see when you first join, because that is a worldwide chat that anyone can come in and talk. Now, if you are in a group, which I can show you a little bit for that. So group management, if you come in here, it'll show you all of the public groups. And we just added this search feature, which is really cool because before that, you had to actually go and look for the group. So that was a lot harder. So now you can actually come in here and we have a group called sponsorship requests right here. So this group and the join button is actually hidden right now, but yeah, you can click join once you get somebody. So the first thing is you're going to come in, you're going to say, I'm new. The people are going to offer you some court because that's just how the community is. We have a great community. They're going to say, oh, here, I'll send you a little court so you can join your first group and register your first name or whatever. And so once you have that, you can join a group. People will explain all of this to you if you just ask questions, right? Our community is fantastic. We've got some amazing people, and so they will help you along the way no matter what. Let's see, should I keep going or you have anything?
First of all, this is amazing. Like knowing what the user interface looked like before and seeing how you've streamlined everything. Like just
it's going to get so much easier too.
Yeah, just the fact that you have the search for the groups, you have sponsorship requests group, you know what I mean? Like that is beautiful because somebody might be like, well, I want a mint, but I don't have a sponsorship. So what do I do? There it is right there. It's that easy to get started. So that is really beautiful. Just the fact that you have that button, become a minter, dang.
Right. That is so cool, right? Like, yeah, and it explains to you in Qortal, in order to become a minter and begin earning court rewards for increase your minter level, you must become sponsored. It explains it all to you, right? So, and I want more of this kind of stuff in the UI. I want the UI to be so damn simple that if you don't know anything about it, you should be able to come in here, just click around and figure it out, right? Like, and that's what my goal has always been.
Well, and that's what is really exciting to me looking at this, because I mean, it's like just the process. Like you can step into this now with this user interface. You can step into this really not knowing anything. Maybe you're only familiar with like social media. You know what I mean? And that's the level of tech savvy that you have, you know? You can step into this and it's so user friendly. I'm just looking at all of this stuff here.
So I wanted to kind of show off. So the main functionality of Qortal is really all about the hosting, right? Because we are looking to replace the internet. And in order to replace the internet, we have to be able to do things like host websites, host applications, so that people can do all of the things that they do on a regular basis on their computer inside of Qortal. Now, the whole idea of the Qortal UI is to have it all in one place. So that you can do everything here, right? So if you're looking to, say, browse some websites, you can literally just click the websites plugin over here and go browse websites. Now, our search functionality right now is limited to the website name. So at the moment, you have to know the name of the website. This will get a lot more in depth as time goes on, because we've already got here, as you can see, tags. So you can actually tag it, like this one's tagged OS, operating system, system, apps, whatever. So people, when they're publishing their site, they can say like blog, or, you know, let's see what other people say here. This one says buying a new home, want to make sure it's safe. It says home inspections, right? So you can publish what your website is about too. So there's metadata, that's what that's called. So you can publish the metadata and explain what your site is, you know, focused on. And so people can see that, and soon enough we'll be able to search that too. So you'll be able to search like what you're looking for, basically, just like, you know, the beginnings of Google, where you could search just for simple things, and then it got super complex. But we're not gonna, you know, be doing the same things that they do.
And that's what I want. Yeah, and that's what I want to point out here, because you know, for the viewers watching this, you know, they're like, oh yeah, that looks pretty simple. But like I said, like what's exciting to me is that like you have minting, you click the minting button, it says become a minter. This isn't always been the case. And there isn't another project out there that is like this, where everything that you would want to do on the internet either is already available here at Qortal, or it will be very shortly in the future, because you guys have a hell of a team.
Yeah, you've seen how far we've come, right? Like if you were here even just a year ago, we had like basically a fraction of this, and it was so much more like convoluted and difficult to use, and it's just gotten so much better.
Well, and that's really why I bring that up. Like the simplicity that you're seeing here, it looks simple to the person looking at it, but understand the amount of skill and knowledge, and not just that, but ethics that has gone into the design of what it is that you guys are doing. And that's why, I mean, it's my personal belief, and I know that I'm not the only one. The guys at Alpha Vedic would back this up too. The ethics that have gone into this is why it's able to look the way that it does. The internet of the new world, that's what we're talking about here, because my viewers know, like, we are, each and every one of us that are living in their life's purpose, they are building their own projects, like we are building the new world, you know.
Right.
And so when you look at the simplicity of Qortal as it is on your screen right now, understand that some of the best, not quality people, but quality skill is going into this. And I
Our
can't stress
developers
that
are world
enough.
class. They're
Yes.
crazy. Like they blow my mind on a daily basis. Like I thought, like I'm like, oh, what about if we could do this? It's like I thought this would take like a month. He's like the next day. Oh, here you go. I'm like, you did that already? Like what the hell? Like these guys are crazy good. Like you have to remember that no one has ever done anything like this before. Like this is all brand new. This is all something that's been done the first time on Qortal. Like we are a custom platform built from scratch. Like no other blockchain functions the way that we do. No other blockchain has any of the functionality that we have. No other blockchain has the same consensus that we have. We are literally completely custom and leading the industry. So like for me to suggest that something gets done and it forget to get done in like a quarter or less of the time that I expected it to get done, it's just like mind-boggling. I'm like, this is insane. Like you guys are crazy, crazy good. Now I'm not an actual developer, right? Like I call myself like the visionary or the dev team facilitator, right? Like I help to build the dev team. I make sure that the guys are all taken care of, anything that they need, whatever, right? But I'm not a developer. So for me to see this stuff, like I built this website, but web development to me is not really development.
Yeah.
Like these guys are building all this stuff from scratch. So that's real development to me. But I'm like, this is insane, right? Like it just blows my own mind.
It's because you're the idea guy. You
Right.
see the
Yeah.
problem and you are like, well, what if we could fix it like this? And then all of a sudden, like you said, these world-class developers are like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let me just pop that up for you. And you're like, what? I just
Yeah.
said it and then it happened. And
Yeah. It's crazy.
that's how it's supposed to work. It really is. You know,
Right.
if you know that you're on the right track and you're doing everything that you should be doing, then that's exactly how it works. You speak it and it comes into existence. Boom.
Right. So I wanted to show the website. So this is actually my website on QDN. Now QDN is just Qortal Data Network. So our data network, again, custom built, no other data network like it. It takes like basically all of the awesome decentralized data concepts and throws them all together, makes them easier to use, and secures them with a blockchain. So it's like completely like revolutionary and awesome, right? Like, so all of the stuff that's hosted on top of QDN, which is in the future going to be basically everything, right? Is secured in such a way that it's unhackable, right? The same way that the accounts and stuff like that have no database to be hacked, this also has no database to be hacked, and also is secured by that unhackable database called the blockchain. So like just the concepts of this is insane, right? Like, so you can actually put up a website that you never have to worry about that website ever getting messed with, ever. I put this website up one time, which in order to do that, you have this thing called name registration, right? So this account I'm logged into is obviously not the account I used to publish that. The account I used to publish that had a name. So you can register a name, which right now costs you 1.25 Qrt. And I can show you how to get Qrt if you don't get someone to give it to you to do that. Most people, they will get someone to give it to them. And I am always in the QChat giving out Qrt for people to register their first name. But so here you can register a name. Now, what a name is, it's not just your username. It's also able to be used as a domain name, for lack of a better word, on Qortal, right? So you can take that name, you can use it to publish a website, you can use it to publish an application, you can use it as your username on other published applications and so forth. So it's really, really powerful. And you pay one-time fee for this name. And if you create it the first time, that fee is 1.25 Qrt, right? Once you have that name, that's all you need. You pay that one-time fee, you never have to pay another fee again. Now, when you publish your website on Qortal, you come here, publish website, you select the name will be there because this account doesn't have one, but there will be a name here, your registered name. You can select that name, then you give a title to your website, you literally choose a file that is a zipped copy. Now I have, like, this is actually my website I was showing you. It's a zipped copy of my website. You literally just choose that, and you don't have to pay a fee to do this. There's not even a fee for the blockchain itself to put the transaction up. We've made it so that is feeless too, which most blockchains can't even do that, right? They all have fees to do anything, right?
And everything is ridiculously expensive.
Right. Especially
Yeah.
if you're dealing with something like Ethereum, right? Like, you can't even do a transaction on their chain for less than $25, $30. Maybe it's even more now. It's stupid, right?
Mhm.
So for this, you literally can have no court in your accounts once you've registered your name. If you only had 1.25 and you spend it all on your registered name, that's all you would need. Once you have that, you publish your site here. It comes up in the websites just like I was showing you here when I search my name. And your website is published forever for free. It can never be taken
Wow.
down. It
No
can never be
more,
hacked.
no more
It's crazy.
annual paying for your domain name,
No more,
no more.
no more of that. No more
So-
server fees. No more hosting fees. Nothing.
So what if somebody has a website on, you know, I don't know, whatever, .com or whatever.
I can
Can-
show you what that looks like too. Now, so there are a few caveats right now, but for the most part, you can take, so this website, and this is what it looks like if the website hasn't already been accessed. Well, that went through really quickly too, but so this is actually a copy of actually an older version of my Crowetic.com website that was built with WordPress. So this is actually a WordPress website that is functional, that you can literally just convert it into a website that you can publish on Qortal. And I can go over how to do that. There are multiple different ways to do that. It's pretty straightforward. But if you want me to help you do that, I can definitely do that as well, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like totally not techie, but you have a website that somebody built for you and you want to convert it to run on Qortal, we can totally help you do that. And this I didn't even do any extra work on this at all. I literally just ran it through a conversion program and published it. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so you can do that, definitely.
So
the cart, though, like things like the cart are not functional yet. We will be able to do that in the future. That will require a little bit of custom work at first until we make this. So the whole idea is that we want to have basically an easier to use version of WordPress built into the UI with a drag and drop web builder, drag and drop whatever you want, drag and drop payment plugins, drag and drop all the stuff that you want, make your site look exactly the way you want, and publish it, right?
Yes.
So that will be later down the line. That's not going to be something that happens right away. But the whole idea here is you can go to this website. It's going to be a drop down too. And it's going to have website builder, website publisher, website whatever, right? And so you can do all these things that you can do on WordPress or these simple website builders. This is the one I like to use called MobiRise, right? So this one is just a drag and drop. It was so easy to build websites. You literally drag and drop and you click to add stuff, right? So stuff like that is what I want to see inside of the Qortal UI, so that people never have to use anything else. They can just build their website inside of Qortal, publish it, bam, you're done, right? And so that's the whole idea, is that we want this all to be so easy to use. So if you want to build a web store, you have no coding experience, you have no clue what you're doing, you should be able to come in here, say publisher, go web store template, right? Boom. Okay, now I have a web store. Now I can customize what their web store says. Bam, publish it, you're done, right? I want it to be all that easy, right? And some of the developers are but we're going to make everybody not have any idea what they're actually doing. I'm yeah, but these people never have any idea what they're doing anyway when it comes to this technology. So why don't we make it that way, make it that easy, and make it work on Qortal, so then they'll be using Qortal instead.
Yeah,
right?
because why should they have to know? They're not trying to become developers and coders. They're trying to build a web store. They shouldn't have to know all of that stuff. I just want to point out too, you say down the line in the future, we're going to be able to do this, we're going to be able to do that. And the reason that I want to point that out is because what you guys are seeing, our viewers, what they're seeing is the beginning. Look at how badass this is, and this is just the beginning. And it's not that these things haven't happened because you don't have the capability of doing them. They haven't happened yet because you guys are following a very specific time frame and protocol, making sure that everything that is on Qortal is built right first. So yes, it would be great to have the web builder and all of that stuff right now, yeah, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
all of the support infrastructure that needs to be in place before that comes is what is being built right now.
Right. We want to make sure that not only that we have all of the base level stuff, but we have all the base level stuff that's built correctly.
Yes.
And that's like the thing that a lot of these like crypto companies that shouldn't ever exist, because crypto and company together is like not supposed to be a thing.
Yes.
They don't get it at all. Like they don't understand decentralization, but they want to build something decentralized. And so what they end up doing is they end up building something that's what I like to call semi-decentralized. Now, this part's decentralized, but then it uses this over here, which is centralized. I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? This makes no sense, right? If you're going to have something that is claiming to be decentralized, it needs to be completely decentralized. It needs to be not using any server, not using any domain, not using anything that is owned by them, right? Or any hosting company, someone else, relying on anyone, right? So that's it. That's a big thing for me and a big pet peeve. When I see any decentralized project, I look immediately and I go, well, this looks centralized. Well, this looks centralized. Like, so why are you saying you're decentralized? You're giving people false ideas of what decentralization is. And then they go, oh, well, this over here is decentralized. And they think that it is when it's not. And it's like, no, it's not. And that's why they seem to be doing more, because they're not. They're using centralized stuff. And it makes it, of course, it's easy to do it that way because hundreds of thousands of people have done it that way already. Right.
And that's,
it's
but
crazy.
that's why I say, you know, for all of the projects that I've researched and dabbled with, just to kind of get an idea of what it is that they're doing, how they're operating, out of all of those projects, this is the one that I see. And that's why I've stayed in touch with you in particular, is because this is the one that I see actually has the ethics to back up the projects that they're talking about. So when you say we're going to be able to do this, and this is why we want to do it, I know that number one, it's going to be accomplished because it's such a vital part of what your project is. But two, I know that you're not ever going to stray from that. You know, saying that you're building a decentralized platform and then centralizing vital components of that platform is unethical and it's misleading. And I know that Qortal and their developers, you as one of the creators, I know that you are never going to stray away from those ethics. And that's why I feel like this is the project. If you are interested and believe in decentralization, if you believe in building the new world and you believe that that building our own systems is the only way to do that, Qortal is where it's at.
And we are the only one, like we are the only alternative infrastructure platform that exists, right? You're either using the system, their system, right? Or you're using Qortal. That's how I see it, because there are so many others that claim to be that way, but they're just not. And so we're the only ones that are completely separate, right? And people talk about building parallel economies and stuff like that. We are the only place that you can actually do that, right? Because we cannot be touched by their nonsense at all. We don't care about their domains. We don't care about their hosting. We don't care about anything. We don't care about any of the stuff that they're doing over there. Their fiat money. We don't care about that. We really just don't have anything to do with what they're doing. They can do whatever they're doing over there. We're fine with that. We're over here doing our thing, right? And so that's why the complete and utter decentralization is 100% necessary, right? So I wanted to also point out the trade portal, just because, well, this is like a really, really awesome platform. Yes, we don't have all the fancy charts yet, but this platform, like people years ago were wishing that they could have a platform like this, because being able to trade without that third party is huge, right? Like this is a multi-billion-dollar value platform, right? So I wanted to point this out because it's really cool, and also because this is a good way for if people want to have some court and they don't really want to talk in QChat or whatever and ask people for it, which I understand that, because I'm the type where I don't like asking people for stuff, right? So if you're like that too, you do have to like get away from fiat, right? So that's one of the things where, yes, since we're completely separate from the other system, you do have to realize that you also have to separate yourself from that system to be more involved with ours, right? So, and I understand that people like may not know how to buy Litecoin or whatever, right? But It's very simple. And if you come into our Telegram community or our Discord community, even if you don't get immediately into QChat and start talking to us there, you can come into our Telegram or Discord, and we can, walk you through it. Even like whichever country you're in, we've got people worldwide that can help you to do this. Now, if you're the type where you like your fiat money, then you're probably not coming to Qortal, right? Because that's, if you like fiat and that's what your thing is, then you're probably not going to be interested in replacing it and making it useless, right? So, but what we're trying to do here is just be separate, right? We don't want anything to do with all their stuff because, in my opinion, it's all built incorrectly. It all makes no sense. It's all basically built to scam people and make certain people higher up than others, and I just don't like it, right? So we're balancing all of that. We're distributing that power back out to the people and allowing the people to build their own destiny by way of building their own, company on top of here or whatever, right? Like they can do whatever their skill set is, they can demonstrate it here and start earning court for it, while at the same time, they can run their node, they can earn court just for doing that, right? So we're trying to get to a point here where once the perceived value of the platform gets to a certain point, right? Which it will happen. I just don't know exactly when, right? Because I can predict the future, but not like accurately like that, right? So we can say whenever the platform does get to a point where the value of the platform is understood and realized by everyone, right? Then the value here that you can trade for Litecoin and so forth will be a lot higher. And so the small amount that you start minting even at level 1 could potentially be enough to make sure your daily life is taken care of, right? Now, so if your daily life is taken care of, now you can focus on what you like to do as opposed to going to a day job that you hate because you have to, and you can start earning in different ways here. And now that's going to get a lot more, there's going to be a lot more options here for that kind of stuff to take place. As you can see, the websites is the start of that, where you'll be able to publish like whatever you want there. Like if you're a blogger or whatever, people will be able to tip you in the near future with that kind of stuff, and you'll be able to make money that way too. Or like if you sell things, like my company sells the Qortal, we can do that on top of here too, and take payments in multiple different supported coins and all kinds of cool stuff, right? But so what you're going to need to do if you want to purchase Court yourself is get one of our supported coins. Now, the main market that most people are trading on right now, since I think it's just because it's the primary market when you click the trade portal, and people like haven't really gotten used to switching markets, because we have a ton of markets here. You can see Litecoin, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Digibyte, Ravencoin, and Pirate Chain, right? Now, people are definitely going to start using Pirate Chain because the Pirate Chain community is very, very excited about this. But so the Litecoin market is the one that most people are using right now. It's also one of the easiest coins to acquire. Bitcoin and Litecoin are basically hand in hand. Anywhere you can get Bitcoin, you can probably also get Litecoin, or you can get Litecoin really easily with Bitcoin if you can only get Bitcoin in the place that you're trading, whatever, right? So all you have to do is get your hands on Litecoin somehow. And since you've already got your Litecoin wallet here in Qortal, you can just send that Litecoin. So you can click this little copy button that didn't used to exist either. It makes this a lot easier. Oh, what else we have that's really cool too is we now have this send all button. We didn't have that before either, which made it a lot harder for like if you had a balance here and you wanted to send it all out, being able to do that was a lot harder, right? So we've added a lot of little ease of use type improvements. We also have, like, if I had transactions here, you'd be able to see all the details, the date, where it came from, where it went to, all of that stuff. So our wallet's getting a lot more fully featured now too. But yeah, if you have Litecoin in an exchange somewhere, you never want to hold it in that exchange. So if you guys are already dealing with Coinbase or some place like that where you have your coins there, my suggestion would be don't do that, right? Like, hold the coins in a place that you actually control, right? And so all of these wallets are tied to your one Qortal backup file. So that one backup file is all you need to back up. All of these wallets are tied to that. So that one encrypted file, that's all you need to have. If you have that and you have Qortal, you have access to all your wallets. So that makes it really easy too, right? So we've got a lot of like things that other platforms don't have. Like, for example, if this was another like multi-wallet type platform, there are many where you have private keys for each of these, which they do exist, but the way that we did it is that that's all tied to that one backup file, right? So it makes it easier for everybody to use. So you get your Litecoin, you copy this address here, you send that Litecoin there. As soon as the Litecoin shows up here, then you can use it in the trade portal. Now, sometimes the open market sales do take a minute to load. This is a decentralized platform. You have to like get away from the idea that everything is going to load super fast. But the cool part, especially with the websites, so if I can show you real quick again on my website, I want to show you something that's really cool about them. Once you load the site, right, now everything's instant, right?
Yes.
Because you're accessing it from your own computer. Now, so if I go to this video here and I want to play this video, it just plays, right? It's super instant. Everything just boom, 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 right? So
No
like,
more buffering, waiting for
right,
sites to
exactly.
load,
So
none of
the
that.
way that this works is really cool, right? You just have to get used to, yes, the first time you load the site, I'll show you one, like another site. So I don't know if I've loaded this one or not. But see, okay, so this is the example, right? So first time you load it, it has to download the files, right? Once it downloads those files, then it decrypts them and builds them, because all of the data on QDN is encrypted and chunked, which means nobody can read that data, right?
Right.
Only person
Right.
who can read it is the one who's trying to read it, which is you, right? So
Mhm.
then it builds. So once you've done that, though, then everything is instant. So that's the cool part. So you have to get used to certain things about the way certain things on Qortal as a decentralized platform function versus the way that a centralized internet service functions.
Sure.
Right? So
But even
it's
still,
it's a little different. Yeah.
even
So the
still, that
trade
took
portal, when
less
you
than
load it,
30
sorry, go ahead.
seconds. I said,
Yeah, go
even
ahead.
still, that took less than 30 seconds.
Right. It's quick,
Yeah.
especially because, okay, so every single person who views a site on Qortal becomes another copy of the data. So as you have more people who do that, then there's more places to download it from, then it downloads faster, and so it gets bigger, faster, stronger, more anonymous, more redundant as time goes on, right? So it's really, really cool. Like every time another person views your website, they make a backup of it for you, which
That's
is
awesome.
amazing, right?
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah. So like just the functionality alone is huge in value. And like once people actually start to see the perceived value of this platform, they're going to be like, holy crap. Like this is like a piece, like owning Qort is essentially like owning a piece of the internet, or like the entire internet, and every single company that's built on top of it all at the same time, right? Because it's the underlying infrastructure behind everything, right? So it's crazy. But yeah, once you have your Litecoin in here, you literally come in, you click which order you want. Now, this works a little bit differently than a centralized exchange. You can only buy the entire order. So you have to find one. So if you only had, say, 0.5 Litecoin, you would have to find a couple orders that were under the 0.5 that you had. You click that, and this down here populates for you automatically. You click buy, and it'll take about 7 minutes for the trade to complete.
Okay.
It actually trades directly from one blockchain to another. So it's reliant upon those two chains communicating with each other, and the confirmation times on each one and so forth. So it'll take about 7 minutes on Litecoin to complete. Once that happens and it's done, then you'll have the Qort, and the person who was selling will have the Litecoin. It's that straightforward. So it's everything from that point on is automated. You just have to wait. You wait 7 minutes and it's done. And then if you wanted to buy another one, take it up to your 0.5 you wanted to spend or whatever, you just have to come back, click the next one, click buy, wait another 7 minutes, and it's done. Now, we are going to make this a lot easier too. Of course, like as time goes on, this is going to be a little bit more automated. You'll be able to come in and say, I want to spend this much Litecoin and I want to buy up to this price, and it'll just do it for you. And you can walk away, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're getting there. Like that's actually like one of the next features that's going to be added to the trade portal is the auto buy feature. So that will make it a lot easier for people to just say like, I just want to buy anytime there's anything like comes up at this price, and it'll just buy it automatically for you. So you don't have to worry about it, right?
So what about gas prices then on Qortal?
Oh yeah, there isn't such a thing. I think,
and if people don't know what gas prices are, just really quick, explain it to them.
So Ethereum uses this system called gas, right? And it's basically how their transactions are processed. You have to pay gas fees, right? It's complete and utter bullshit, in my opinion. Now, what we're trying to do is actually completely go feeless. We want to make all of our transactions completely feeless. Now, right now, it costs you, so the transaction fee we can't get around the transaction fee for Litecoin, right? So because we're dealing directly with the Litecoin chain. So it's going to cost you 0.00005 Litecoin to make a trade, which is basically a few cents.
Beautiful.
But on Qortal, any transaction like joining a group or sending Qort, it costs you 0.001, I believe. I forget if it's 0.01 or 0.001, but it's still a tiny amount. But what the plan is in the future is, yeah, and it doesn't matter whether you're sending a lot or a little or whatever you're doing, it's a flat fee. And
Nice.
we're also planning on completely removing that. So the same way that we have done with the websites and publishing websites, where this transaction doesn't cost you anything, it uses an algorithm in the background, and instead of a transaction fee, so it's like complex stuff I can explain if you really want me to, but it makes it free, right?
Yeah.
And it keeps it from people being able to spam that transaction, because that's really the only reason for the fees, right? If you think about it, like the main reason for the fees on blockchains is so that people don't just send a bunch of transactions willy-nilly and try to fill the blockchain's blocks, because each block
Yes.
only has a certain amount of data that can go into it, right? So that's the whole idea behind a fee, is that so that people can't just spam the transactions. So instead of doing that, we just make it so the transaction takes a few seconds. So they can't spam it because it takes a few seconds to process, and that's all it is. And the same concept is used in QChat for sending messages. It's called the memory proof of work, and it just takes a few seconds to send the message before it actually sends. And once you get Qort in your wallet, that actually goes faster, because then it knows you're a user who has Qort in its wallet, so it makes it so that you can send messages faster. But the same idea is going to be applied to all types of transactions. So like sending Qort, or the trade portal, especially, because I'm going to be really happy about that, because then there will be no fees on the Qort side, and you'll be able to trade from one coin to Qort and then to another coin for no fees on the Qort side. So you're only paying the transaction fees on this coin and this coin, right? So that's really cool. But yeah, we're looking to go completely feeless. We're doing the exact opposite of Ethereum, where like it literally costs you over $20 just to do any transaction on their chain. And that makes me think, why is anybody using this? Like, I just don't understand. I literally don't touch it. I can't stand it. It drives me insane, because I don't understand how anybody deals with this crap at all. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, it's bananas, and it's extortion, really. Like, oh, you want your money? Guess what? You're going to have to pay the fee.
The worst part about it is, like, so now they're switching to proof of stake, right? Proof of stake directly rewards the rich. And the worst part is that all of the people who are the richest ones on the Ethereum chain are all big companies, right? So this is almost like worse than what exists now, because now it's an unstoppable version, because blockchains by nature are unstoppable, right? So now it's an unstoppable version of the bullshit we already have. That's the way I look at it. I'm like, wow, great.
Oh
man,
my,
you guys have made an unstoppable version of the bullshit. Like, how awesome. Like, we love unstoppable bullshit here. Like, that sounds great, right? Like,
oh my
I just don't
gosh.
understand.
Yeah, you just broke my brain, but it's so obvious. You're absolutely 100% correct. Like, I just hadn't
It's crazy.
thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Unstoppable bullshit. Thanks, guys.
Right.
Thanks
And
so much.
That's what you end up building when you do things in the way that Ethereum did. And now even Bitcoin, unfortunately, right? And now, there's a lot of conspiracy that goes along with this, right? But I can stop sharing my screen. I think we can just now kind of talk if you want.
Absolutely.
I think I've gone basically over everything. Puzzles is just a little game that one of our developers put together. He asked some questions here, and you can answer them if you're a smart person. And man, we have a lot of smart people, because the questions get answered so quickly, and I don't even know. I'm like, what do you mean? Count plus Bert? What does this even mean? Like, I don't even understand, right? But people are answering these questions so fast and getting rewarded in Qort for doing it, right? So it's a little fun little game that you can play if you want to. We're gonna have a cool lottery in here too. Like, so if you want to like do a little bit of like quote unquote gambling, where you buy a ticket and then you can win the pot. We have a smart contract we designed that does that, and it's just decentralized, really cool. So you can do that, like, throw a little Qort at that, see if you win, right? And people like those kinds of things. So we're gonna have a little fun things like that in there too. Like, the coolest part is, like, when we get to Q apps, we'll be able to replace Facebook. We'll be able to replace Twitter. We'll be able to replace Reddit. All of these things, like, and the first one we're gonna replace is YouTube. So all these people who got banned from YouTube, and like their content keeps getting censored, or all this nonsense that happens on these centralized bullshit platforms, right? That's not possible. Like, there's no such thing as censorship on Qortal. No one has that ability other than you. Or on the other end, the people viewing the content, they can decide not to see it, right? But anyone else cannot censor anything on behalf of anyone else, right? And so it's just a much better way to build all of these things, right? And it's really just putting the power into people's hands.
I'm looking forward to the day when we can put better than barter on Qortal. Like
Yes.
it,
And I really like that concept too. So I really want to see that. I think in the future, that's really how most things are going to be transacted. Like in my future anyway,
yeah.
like currency is a thing that we need right now because we're in the process of switching from a fiat currency. Now we're going to a better one that's decentralized. But in the longer term future, I think that that concept will kind of almost fade away. Like it
Mhm.
won't really be a thing. I don't know exactly how that part is going to work out, but
I'm
for now,
working
we're
on that
focused
part.
on getting from centralized to decentralized. That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's, building the new world. It's baby steps,
Right.
and it takes time to make sure that it's done the right way. This world that we are experiencing now, it was built like shoddy. It was built, like without any foresight, without any emphasis put on ethics or anything like that. And so if you're going to build a new world, you better make sure you do it right, because otherwise what's the point? We may as well stick with the same shit that we have now.
Exactly. And people I need people to understand the issues, right? Like, because a lot of people be like, well, I've never had a problem with my bank, or I've never had a problem with da da da. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a problem with them in the future. Now, for example, like, because I was always like kind of ahead of everybody when it came to the cryptocurrency stuff and whatever, right? So I started selling Bitcoin and doing all these things and mining and stuff a long time ago, right? So I had both PayPal and Bank of America. Both of them stole, it was basically 18,000 from one and 15,000 from another, straight up took it from my bank account because guess what? They deemed me to be a drug dealer because I was dealing with Bitcoin and they had no idea what Bitcoin was, right? So because they had no idea what it was, they assumed I was doing something illegal and took money from me without like any sort of proof or any sort of anything. They just did it, right?
And you
And so
never
that's a
received
big
that.
problem.
You never got that back?
No, no.
Wow.
No. And now guess what? PayPal is selling Bitcoin themselves. Yeah.
So because of their own ignorance, the
Right.
ways that our government is set up, our laws are set up, is corporations can just go and fuck the average person just
All
because
those
they're
little
ignorant.
like little tiny worded agreements that you sign when you're creating a new app or whatever. Notice that we don't have any of that in Qortal. But you're saying like, yes, I agree to these terms. I agree to these terms. What are you actually agreeing to? When
Mhm.
you're creating a bank account, you're agreeing to, you don't own shit. The bank owns everything. You're basically lending, or they're lending the service of the bank account to you, and they can take it from you whenever they feel like it. That's what you're telling them. And they're saying the same thing to anybody like a cloud that hosts your data, or basically everything. All of the centralized services, even like the Mac operating system or Windows operating system, all of these things that we're using. And that's why I'm always suggesting using open source Linux, right? But that's, people can get there later. But yeah, at least, we're having a discussion on these topics now. At least we can like get people to start understanding that giving up your control to these companies is exactly what they want. They want to own everyone, right? They want to have all this control. They want, and you're just letting it happen, right? Now
Right.
we're providing you an alternative so that you don't have to do that anymore, right? And yes, we have more that we can do, but if you've followed us for even a short period of time, you'll see how quickly we're actually getting these things done. And the next step is adding the Q apps functionality, which will allow us to literally replace YouTube. And now that's huge, right? With no servers, no ownership, no company behind it, right? Like, and it's going to be amazing, right? So that, and after that happens, any other developer can take that code, use the authentication portions of it and whatever, and change it into anything else and publish that on their name, right? So you'll have your registered name will not only just be a website. Now it'll be a website, an application, and also a Git repo, which is really huge for developers because most of them are using GitHub. And guess what? GitHub was just purchased by Microsoft not that long ago. Now, I don't know how you feel about Microsoft, but they're not one of my favorite companies, right? And so
Yeah.
we know what they're doing behind the scenes. Like he's not even trying to hide it really. Like, and
No.
so like the ownership of all open source code in the world essentially is what he bought when he bought GitHub. And so that's really bad. And so when we get to the point where every name has a Git repo, we can also rescue good open source projects from dealing with GitHub, right? And so this is like much, much bigger than people realize. But yeah, we just need users to understand what they're doing when they're signing up for these things online it's like, it's much more insidious than you think it is. Like, yeah. And yes, and people say like, aren't you worried about, yada yada, black shirts showing up to your door? Like, I'm like, why would I need to be worried about that? Like, I get your concern, and I get it, but I'm like, focusing on that is not important. Like, if that happens, oh well, like Qortal will continue. That's the beautiful part about a decentralized platform. Somebody else can just pick it up and take it over, right? And they can keep moving. Like, and the community keeps growing on a daily basis. New developers keep coming in. We just got 2 more developers on the UI side the other day. It's great, right? So like, if I'm not around, I did what I was supposed to do. I brought this project to reality, right? Like, that's what I'm focused on. Like, I'm not sitting here being scared. And honestly, like, we're just building something separate from them. We're not trying to compete with anything. We're just building something separate, something better. Like, if they think it's a competition, that's on them, right? Like, I don't think of it that way. I think of, we're just building an alternative. It's a better alternative, and the people who want to use that alternative can. And that's
Right.
it.
Right, right. And I talk a lot to a lot of people in anarchist communities and things like that who are, people think that anarchism is like Mad Max, burn all the
Right.
infrastructures to the ground
No.
and, F the government and all of that stuff. But really what they're doing is minding their own business. They see
Right.
flaws in the infrastructure, they see flaws in the systems, and they see flaws in the protocols. And what they're trying to do is address those flaws by creating something that negates all of that so that we don't have flaws built into the system from the get. Because like with the project that you were talking about before, you can't just, rebuild it real fast. It doesn't
Right.
work that way. It doesn't work that way with governments. It doesn't work that way with education. It doesn't work that way with the financial system. Like,
Right.
there's no way to take something that is inherently flawed and just fix it,
Right.
because I'm
It
sorry, it
takes a
doesn't work
lot
that
of
way.
effort. Like, you just have to work on it for a long period of time. And the thing too, when we launched Qortal, like, we had bug after bug after bug after bug after bug, because this is something that's brand new. No one's ever built anything like this before. Of course, we're going to have bugs, right? So we had to
Yeah.
fix. And now the platform is so stable. I'm so excited about how stable it is, because like, it took so long to get to that point where it was like actually stable, like, and
Mhm.
everything was working perfectly. Like, and right now I can firmly say that you saw how easily the sites were loading, how fast things were going on QDN. Like, man, when we first loaded it, it took forever to load. It took forever. Like, and now it's optimized and fast, and it's going to get faster and easier as time goes on. It's just so cool to see these things all come together. So the people who've been watching us for a long time, like, from, even if you've been around since Genesis, which like was 2020, and you've seen the differences. I wish I had
Mhm.
some screenshots to show you, because it's crazy. Like, completely different. Like, the UI is so different now. Like, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see how this stuff progresses, and especially since our team develops so fast. Like, this is by far the most quickly executed development. It's so complex, and like, and they comment everything perfectly. It's just insane. So it's really cool to watch them do their work too. So
And one of the things that I want to point out, talking about like all the bug fixes, like having to go from, this essentially clear code where you don't have any use cases, you don't have anything, any tests or anything like that. And the reason that you're able to grow so fast is because, and develop so fast, is because you have people who get excited about the project, they start working with it, they find the bugs, they report the bugs, and then your developers actually get
yeah,
to work on that.
community
And
is so important in so many different
yes,
ways. Yeah,
yes,
so
it's the
important.
community that really allows not just your project, but every project to develop quicker and quicker and quicker and become more and more stable. And that's because we are working together to solve those problems. It's not,
Exactly.
no project is an island onto itself.
Mhm.
The idea that somebody would want to, like Microsoft, they want to keep everything closed and they don't want to have open source codes, and they don't want to, they're really, if you think about it, not just ethically, but like logistically shooting themselves in the foot, because they
Oh,
are
totally.
only
Yeah.
they are only able to grow as fast as the people working for them are capable of. And
Right.
when you do a project like this, when everything is open source, you can have anyone at any time step in and say, hey, did you realize that if you do it this way, that functionality will improve? Or if you know, bring in this other code, then you're going to be able to solve this problem that's preventing this, you know, say your websites or whatever, you know, from being able to launch that part of your project. And then like that, like lightning speed, a project can grow.
It's
And
awesome.
it is awesome. And just the fact that you're committed to that, open source is what you are committed to. That is what tells me that this is one of the projects that are going to be successful in the new world. You know, my listeners know, like, I am committed to helping build the new world. If whoever
Yep.
I see has the right ethics, that has an exciting, inspired idea, you know, because inspiration is where all of this comes from. You know, you might have a moment where you're brushing your teeth and you're like, hey, what if, and you just have this random thought. And then the next thing you know,
Totally.
you have Qortal or whatever the project is. That's how you build new systems, is with
Yep.
inspired thought. And for people to hear about that thought and get excited and want to contribute and want to support it and want to become a node on the Qortal network so that it can grow faster and be more stable. That's how we build it up. And we can't do that by ourselves. And so open source, the fact that you're committed to that makes me so happy. It's just, you know, like I said, that's one of the ethics that has to be in the forefront of this new world that we're building.
It does. It does. I've always said that open source has to be the main thing. If you're not building an open source, I want nothing to do with it. Sorry,
Mhm.
because they're limiting themselves totally, definitely, because they're limited to their developers being able to find the bugs that they have to find and so forth. If you open it up, then all developers can help you, and
Yeah.
it's just so much better. Like,
And,
yeah,
and to put this in terms for, like, you know, that someone who isn't necessarily tech savvy, that they can understand, one of the things about Better Than Barter is that it widens your village, right? Because it takes a village, and we all are contributing to our communities and receiving resources back from our communities, right? But if your village is maybe, say, just your workplace and your friends and your family, you are limited to the skills, abilities, and talents of the people in that group. But if you widen that scope a little bit, just to, you know, to other neighborhoods in your community that you maybe haven't reached out to before, if you can have open eyes to see where not just other resources in your community are, but where you can also contribute, because it's equal give and take is
hmm
another, that's what I'm all about in the new world, is I'm
yep.
committed to equal give and take, right? So
And
if
that's basically what Quartal's trying to do too, is to reward you for your input, right? Your input
yes.
is directly related to how much you get from the system. And that's really like what the whole idea was, is like, well, however much energy you put into this is what you're going to get out of it, right?
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to try to keep going with different methods of leveling and so forth that we'll end up adding in the future. And like, we want it all to be as balanced as possible in all different ways. And like, ultimately, I'm trying to make a better world, because my children need to be able to grow up into a world that's not like imploding upon itself with centralized shit taking the lead. Like, that's just not ideal, right? So like, we need to have something where it's going to allow them to be creative and to actually like build their own destiny, literally, and allow that stuff to take place. And there's nothing like that exists in the centralized system. Not
Mhm.
really. Like, can you as a person go and like just start building your own things and do it really easily and like end up with something that's gonna like be able to run your life and you can be fine like that? Like, no. Like, and that's really like the ultimate goal, is that for you to be able to do that and to live that way and to be able to do things that you want to do and live by doing that, as
Mhm.
opposed to having to go work some day job that you hate and that you're doing something that you don't even believe in, and it's just because you have to make money so that you can pay for your house and whatever. Like, that's not ideal, right? And so we really want to be able to allow people to use their creativity and to build their life that way. And
Right.
so that's the ultimate goal of the platform, is to allow that kind of thing to take place. And I really hope that that's gets across to people, and that we can start fostering all of that as soon as we have a little bit more stuff. Like, even with just building websites, people have already built, you saw how many websites, that was just the first page. Like there are like 9 or 12 pages now of websites that have already been built on Qortal, and those are just static websites. There's going to be so much stuff there that you can do, and like web stores and like, you know, creative people going, I have this for sale. Like, you know, it's just going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's what I want to foster, is people being able to do things that they like.
Yes. Um, Better Than's mission statement is to help create a world where every individual can reach their full potential. And I really
Love it.
believe that the only way to do that is for people to not feel like they have to do things that they don't want to do just to survive. I really
Yep.
believe that we are here to follow our own curiosities and interests and to have fun and create. That is what human beings are here for.
Yep.
And your project, I think, is a huge step in that direction. And I know of several other projects that are going to help facilitate that, every human being supported in reaching their full potential. Because what better world can we plan for our own children than a world where that is full of conscious creators?
Right.
There's not a better world that I can imagine for that.
Nope.
And so, I mean, anything that I can do to support you and all of these other projects, I'm going to do it, and we just have to be there for each other,
Yep.
recognize, like recognizes like. When we see someone or a project that is inherently in line aligned with where we are at in our own lives, we have to support each other. And that's the basis of building a new world. So I'm so
Absolutely.
happy that you came to talk to me, and thank you for doing the demonstration so that people can see. I think I have some old screenshots of the old user interface, and I almost
Yeah.
want
If you
to
do,
clip some of
do a
them in.
comparison. Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to clip some of them in just so that people can see how the progression, and just to give people an idea again about how quickly this project is growing. I believe that you and I started talking somewhere around January, February of 2021. And what has happened since then with your project is leaps and bounds from where you were. And I think you said that you officially launched, what did you say, 2020?
June 2020.
June 2020. Okay. So yeah, so I came across you maybe 7 months after you guys launched, and what you've
Yeah.
been able to do is mind blowing to me.
It's
And
crazy, huh? Like
it,
it even blows my mind. I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like, yeah,
I mean, it's not crazy because I've seen what can happen when, like I said, like every one of us has a purpose. And once we are in line with our purpose and we're actually committed and dedicated and devoted to that purpose, the universe supports you. God supports you, and brings you the tools and the people and the resources that you need to accomplish what it is that you're meant to accomplish in your life, right? We're all supposed to leave a
absolutely.
big ass
Dude, there is
footprint.
no way that Qortal would have come together like with any other way. Like it's insane. If I actually told you the story of how it all came together, it blows my mind still. Like there's
Yeah.
no way that this could have happened at all unless it was meant to happen. Like that's really the only way that I can see it, because it was just insane that this ever happened. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about that is, like, when you really think about your own work and how it is being like divinely supported, it gives you so much confidence and energy and motivation and drive and ambition to keep going. Like I said before, like
Definitely.
just being a pit bull that's got a rope and you don't let go of it. So, and I know that you won't. Like, you
No,
are
I don't know
100%
how.
committed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've got lockjaw on my project, that's for sure. So,
Yep.
all right. Thank you for coming and talking to us and explaining what you're doing. I think that this is amazing. And I think that you are right. Once people hear about it and they understand it. I always say that I want Better Than Barter to have Facebook numbers. We're talking billions of people all around the world. I don't see any reason why that can't happen for Qortal.
Right.
You are dead set on replacing those different systems that people are reliant on now. And you're doing a damn good job.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm really excited for the future, and I just hope everybody can pick up on that excitement and at least get a little bit interested and just try to check it out. Just get it installed on your computer and see how it goes, right? If you have a problem, we have a bunch of people in the community that can help you. and we'll do that, right? Including me, right? So
Yeah, that's
no,
the
it was
other
my
thing.
pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want people to know you don't have to feel nervous about what your tech knowledge is, because
No.
this is a community project and there are people there who want you on board. They want you
We
to
have people
contribute.
up
They
to
want to
80
help
years old,
you.
over 80 years old in the community who are like, who had no idea at first and are now like helping other people set up. Like, so it's great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we've got all age ranges, we've got all skill levels who have like had no idea, and now everybody's part of the network. So, and
Yeah,
it's really,
anybody
it
can
gets
do
that
it.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jason. I do want to have you back to get updates because you are moving so quickly.
Yeah.
So we'll set that up. I know you don't like to book too far out into the future, but yeah, we'll have you back on. I really want to see how things are going and keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right, thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.
I hope that you watched this interview and became inspired watching someone speak and express their reasons for their dedication and their devotion to their projects. We all have a purpose. We all have a meaning for being here. And it's not often enough that we come across people who are devoted to fulfilling that purpose, to fulfilling their potential. And to hear one of those people express how mind-blowingly beautiful it is to watch the universe support you in your purpose. It's not an experience that most people have had the privilege and the blessing to be able to experience. So for me, interviewing Jason was a wonderful, wonderful, eye-opening time for me personally, because I got to see how much one person appreciates the blessings of the universe that God gives them and how they use it to their advantage. I hope that this inspired you to think about what it is that you could achieve, especially being supported by the universe in the way that Jason is. And I hope that you are inspired to start participating in some of these alternative services that Jason, being just one of the many superheroes that we have, that is creating these alternatives, creating these solutions, creating a new path forward for the new world. I hope that this conversation inspired you to do that, to look into these new projects, to look into yourself and see what it is that you have to offer, and to become excited to see all the ways that the universe is going to support you once you begin doing what it is that you were meant to do here in this lifetime. I love you all so much. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for sharing our content. Thank you for supporting me while I work on my projects, and I try to bring all of these wonderful, wonderful people with wonderful, wonderful ideas to you. I'll see you real soon. I love you so much. Okay, bye-bye.